Hey guys, Rock Papa here. Hope you are all doing very well and having a great late spring, early summer. We just got back from Durango, Colorado, and I got a bunch of rocks to show you and to ID along with you. I've got some pictures here in the beginning of Durango scenery and a short video of a little old fat man falling in the snow. So stay tuned for some good rocks, Durango rocks to ID, and we'll probably talk about where they came from, how they formed, etc. And as usual, if you like this video, please subscribe. Thank you so much to everyone who has subscribed. It helps me immensely. So here we go with Durango, Colorado rocks. Here are my piles. I've got a light rock pile. I've got a dark rock pile. I've got a greenish rock pile. And I've got a kind of pretty reddish, blackish, whitish pile here. Well, let's look at the red piece. What do you guys think? Is it igneous? Well, it's possible. Is it sedimentary? Yeah, it could be possibly sedimentary. Is it metamorphic? I think not metamorphic because I don't see metamorphic banding. And it looks to me like all the crystals in this rock are the same thing, reddish, quartzy hunks. So that tells me it's probably not igneous. It probably did not come to us as an underground pluton or a lava type. So I'm going to call it, since it's really red, that means what? It's full of iron, chock full of iron. So what would you call this? I'd say it's a sedimentary rock. And I would call it iron-rich sandstone. This red sandstone is part of the Hermosa group that was eroded from the ancestral Rocky Mountains, which popped up around 300 million years ago at the same time the Alleghenian orogeny was occurring in the east. Hey guys, the ancestral Rocky Mountains completely eroded away millions of years before our present Rocky Mountains were pushed up. So you might want to look up the ancestral Rocky Mountains and learn a little bit about them. Let's look at this black pile because it's pretty consistent. Look at this. Really black, dark, fairly fine grain. I know it's a mafic rock. That means it has a lot of iron and magnesium in it, and that's the definition of a mafic rock. The black stuff is not biotite. I can't scratch it with a nickel. And I know from looking on Rock D that there's a lot of volcanic rock around here. So, but it's a mafic, so we're going to call it a mafic volcanic rock. I don't think it's a mafic pluton rock because it would have bigger crystals, you'd think. So that leaves only one possibility. That would be basalt lava. Definitely not gabbro in my opinion. Gabbro has bigger crystals. So let's call this basalt lava, and there's a lot of basalt lava around here. Maybe slightly metamorphosed basalt lava. Okay, hey rock buds, this dark rock is metabasalt. That's metamorphosed basalt lava. And it's at least 1.5 billion years old. It probably was in place at the same time the very lowest rocks of the Grand Canyon were in place when an ancient island arc crashed into a microcontinent. All this metabasalt and other associated rocks were deep underground for many millions of years But when the laramide orogeny came through about 70 million years ago to about 30, at the end of the laramide, these rocks were thrust up by block faulting and created the present-day Rocky Mountains. Let's look at this stuff over here. Let's just look at this piece. Very pretty. Do you see mineral grains in there? I see white stuff, and I see red stuff, and the red stuff has a flashy face. That would make it more than likely potassium-rich feldspar. Dark, which is probably biotite. There's white stuff and clearish-looking stuff. So the white stuff could be sodium-rich feldspar. The clear stuff or gray stuff could be quartz. So we've kind of just defined, and it's a felsic rock, right? Because it's kind of a light in color. So I'm going to call it a felsic igneous rock, and we're going to call it granite. It's got the main ingredients of granite, which is quartz, feldspar, and also maybe a touch of biotite, sometimes muscovite. Hey guys, this granite is super old, at least 2 billion years old, and it may have been part of the original core of North America. They call it the craton. And the basalt lava that we just saw would have been emplaced in it at a later time when the island arc, we'll just call it the Grand Canyon Island arc, crashed into this stuff. This was on that pile, but I see now this is not granite. I don't see different mineral crystals. It looks to me like it's kind of sandstony, but it's kind of crystalline. So let's say metamorphic sandstone, we'll call that quartzite. So I really do think I have quartzite here. And when I look over here at my light colored pile, I see some more rocks that look like quartzite. Quartzite is sandstone that has undergone metamorphism. With sandstone, if you break it with a hammer, the sand crystals break apart from each other. If quartzite, you break it with a hammer, the quartzite can break right through the crystals because they're fused together. It's almost glassy. So we have a lot of quartzite. There's more of it here. Here's another piece of quartzite. There's iron in it. Let's see. Quartzite. A metamorphic rock that comes from sandstone. There's another piece of quartzite, and see how smooth it is? What does that tell us? Yeah, it's been rounded in a stream, and somehow it got cracked by rolling down the stream, perhaps. Okay, this quartzite, according to Rock D, is also very old. Maybe 1 to 2 billion years old. And it could be, I'll have to check this, but it could be that this quartzite and this granite over here were emplaced at the same time that the rocks of the Grand Canyon were emplaced, where there was an island arc that crashed into a very small microcontinent. The microcontinent would have had its edge at maybe the border between Wyoming and Colorado. And the island arc that crashed into it would have been, the Grand Canyon rocks. The quartzite is very old, maybe 1.5 billion years old, and it may have been, I don't know for sure, but it may have been the last layer of sand that was eroded off this ancient island arc that crashed into this ancient mainland. Okay, here's a piece of, what do you think? It's not quartzite. I don't see sand-like grains in there. It's not granite because it doesn't have the 3 minerals of granite, all 3, quartz, feldspar, and biotite. It's just all quartz. So it's a piece of quartz vein rock. Actually, the crashing and the volcanic activity opens up the cracks, and then hot fluids bring in silicon in it. You get a quartz vein. So that's a sign of metamorphism right there. Hey guys, you know that quartz is very resistant to weathering. So the rock that the quartz vein is in weathers away, and the quartz vein falls out of it and cracks up. It usually ends up in the stream. That's why it's just a hunk of quartz. Now you might be tempted to call it sandstone, but if you look close enough with a hand lens, you can see tiny little quartz crystals all in it, and you might be able to see them sparkling, those tiny quartz crystals. And so this is for sure Felsic Tuff blown out of a stratovolcano and just piled up. Beautiful stuff. Love it. Here's an interesting piece. What do you see? I see a matrix of grayish material, fine grayish material, and it has embedded in it larger hunks of a white material, and I'm going to call that white material feldspar. Maybe potassium, more likely sodium-rich feldspar. What do you notice about the edges on these hunks of feldspar? Are they smooth and rounded, like you would find if you were talking about a river conglomerate? No, and they're not smooth and rounded the way you would find if you had a lahar, which is a big mud flow with rocks in it. They're angular. So that tells me that we're probably looking at something like an intermediate intermediate lava, and that would be andesite. Could be andesite. Yeah, it's not metagraywacke or graywacke, which is a sedimentary rock, even though it looks something like metagraywacke. Why is it not metagraywacke? Because those hunks, those larger white hunks, would be more rounded, So I feel comfortable in calling it andesite. It could also be rhyolite / andesite lava. There was a lot of that erupted out of these stratovolcanoes back during the Paleogene time, or Laramide orogeny, 70 to 30 million years ago. Isn't that cool? I love that. Look at this rock here. This is fabulous. You see the red hunks? I don't know if I can get it to make it happen, but they have flashy faces. I think I can see a flashy face. So what does that tell you these likely are? Right, big hunks of beautiful reddish potassium-rich feldspar. That's a felsic mineral. And then there's this kind of dark material matrix that they're embedded in, which looks like, it's a mafic, hunk of mafic stuff. Maybe, since this is definitely plutonic, in other words, I believe it was a pluton underground, and it has a felsic component, which is this potassium-rich feldspar, and a mafic component. And this mafic component could be pyroxene or maybe hornblende. But what this tells you is that, what it tells me, and this is very, very old according to Rock D, 1 or 2 billion years old, and it tells us that way, way, way back in the past, more than 1 billion years ago, you got plutons emplaced that had both felsic and mafic components to them. Like in Tennessee, there's a rock that very greatly resembles this. It's called unikite, and it's very old, and it has a mixture of felsic minerals, which would be the potassium-rich feldspar, and a mafic minerals, which could be, let's say this mafic mineral could be pyroxene or hornblende, something like that. Okay, and now we have these greenish rocks. Okay, that's the greenish rock. I'm going to try to scratch it with my thumbnail. Why am I doing that? Because I know that serpentinite is soft. Serpentinite / soapstone is soft enough that you can scratch it with your fingernail, but I can't scratch this with my fingernail. Okay, so it's a pretty hunk of green mineral that's not serpentinite. Here's another piece that's greenish. Same stuff. And look at this. Here's a piece of... This is going to tell us a story, I think, right here. What is the reddish stuff? Yeah, I think it's granite or granite gneiss, and it's been intruded or mineralized with this greenish blue stuff. So I'm pretty convinced that this greenish blue stuff is copper. You know, whenever you have volcanic activity, you get a tremendous amount of minerals like gold, silver, copper, lead, zinc, and many others, along with lots of sulfur and other minerals. And that comes about from volcanic activity. And I think what we've got is a hunk of granite that has been mineralized with copper during the volcanic times that were had here. Not 100% sure, but that's what I think we got. It fits in with the logic of this area. Hey, rock buds, if you're confused a little bit about how all these rocks got formed, that's very understandable. The next video that comes out will be a brief geologic history of Durango, Colorado and the San Juan Mountains. In the meantime, thanks so much for watching this video. I appreciate that. And this is your Rock Papa saying happy rock hunting. Papa out.